When I started creating English, I began to share. I started to realize that I had meaning could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to share. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to share. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to share. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to share. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future, had influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that I had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life has meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and it had influenced other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands. When I started creating English, I began to change. I started to realize that my life had meaning. I could control my future and influence other people. I finally understood that my destiny was in my own hands.